Okay, perfect. So we're online, on air, yeah. And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our second InStat Basketball Webinar. I would like to introduce our guest. Our special guest today is Tim Arns, head coach assistant for Landstede Hammers. Um, from the Dutch league. Yeah, and team also works as the players development coach. And today's topic, the topic of today's conversation, will be players development using InStat Scout for players development purposes. And team will gladly share with us his experience regarding the topic, and especially how he uses how he views the usage of InStat Scout and InStat services for players development in his team and his club. Yeah. Please also, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nikita. I'm global director of basketball for InStat. Um, and again, thanks for joining. And please, team, tell us something about players development. This is a intriguing, interesting topic, in my opinion.
Yes, well, thank you, Nikita, for having me. I
It's a
hope
great pleasure.
everybody is staying safe in these times of the coronavirus.
Yeah, this is the most
And I
important.
will be here today to tell you something about player development and how I look at it. So I'll start with sharing my screen now.
Perfect. In the
Okay.
meantime, I will turn off my camera.
Okay. Well, I just start with introducing myself. My name is Tim Arns. I'm an assistant coach for the Landstede Hammers. I focus on player development and I do opponent scouting. I've been interning with the Raptors 905 in the G League a couple times for the last 2 years,
Oh,
and I
whoa.
gained experience through that as well. If you have any questions during the webinar, make sure to ask them in the YouTube bar. And if you have some questions after the webinar, you can always reach out to me and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible.
Awesome.
Um, I just wanted to go into player development. What is player development? And just go from there. Because we all know we have the basketball universe. And what I mean with the basketball universe is we have this world surrounding basketball. You have with a lot of teams, you have multiple positions, you have coaches, you have managers, you have technical staff, but you also have like sponsors, and of course the crowd who comes to the games. But there's basically only one reason why those people are there, and that is because of the players. So if it would not be for the players, I would not even have a job right now. Um, so basically, the players are centered in the basketball universe, and I am there, or we are there as coaches to help them develop and to have the players come to a higher level so we can actually win games. Um, what is player development? Um, for my opinion, player development is a combination of teaching and repetition. So whenever I'm teaching a player a move, we need to make reps on reps on reps to really make sure the player knows what we're talking about and he knows the way um, we should be doing the basic skill. Um, and player development is really specific to the system of play. Um, so for our example, the player we're gonna talk about today, he is our point guard for the Landstede Hammers, Devin van Oostrum, um, and I can teach him a lot of stuff. I can teach him dribbling, I can teach him passing, I can teach him how to post up. Um, but if we are not going to use it in our system, there's no reason for me to teach him how to post up smaller players. Um, so you should always keep in mind that it is really important to stick to things that players really gonna use instead of just I mean, just learning them a lot of skills, um, what they might not use in a game. And eventually, the big question is what will get a player into a game? Um, and I feel like simple is the thing that is going to get a player in a game. If a player can play defense, I mean, you can play him in, you can put him into a game. If a player can shoot, you can put him into a game. But the thing is, you need to dominate the simple things. So we can do ball handling exercises and we can do 60 dribbles in a row, which looks extremely cool, probably. Um, but it's pretty useless while you get on the basketball court. We're not going to do 60 dribbles in a row to go past our defender. So basically, result is the only thing that matters. And the easiest way to get to a result is to dominate the simple things. Um, Eventually, as a player development coach, you have a role inside of the team. Um, so how that goes, and the way I envision it is, in the NBA you have the G League. In most of the European countries, you have like a youth team or a second team underneath the first team. And the role of the player development coach is to have the minor or youth league player make the first team roster. As soon as you have players that make the roster, you need to work them out, make sure they gain experience and they get better as players, so they eventually can correct the rotation. They can get a couple minutes a game, and they can get into playing a little bit. It doesn't stop when they crack the rotation. You need to make sure to develop them even more, and they need to be a key reserve. So they need to be like the 6, 7 player on the roster, the first or the second sub from the bench. And we want to make players a key reserve. And from there, we want to translate the player from a key reserve into a starter. We really want them to develop, and we want them to play at a higher level, higher level, higher level. And eventually, you want to have a key starter into one of the dominant leaders in the league. So I feel like that's the way that I look at player development. We want to go from spot to spot. We cannot expect someone who is in our youth team to be a key starter out of the blue. We need to prepare them to make the roster. And really, also on the human side of things, tell them, like, you're not going to play 20 minutes. You're going to play maybe some garbage minutes and be happy if you even play. And as soon as they make the roster, we can say, okay, let's get it. The next goal is to crack the rotation. We want to go for at least 10, 15 minutes a game, but we need to improve your game so you will be able to play those 10 to 15 minutes. And I think that's the way that I look at the role of the player development coach. Um, it is really important as well to see the differences between in season training and off season training. In season with the Landstede Hammers last year, we played both our domestic league and the FIBA Europe Cup. Um, and the amount of time we can actually work out it really depends on the schedule we have. Because if we play on a weekend for our domestic league, we play Wednesday on the road for FIBA Europe Cup, which means Tuesday and Thursday are for traveling, and we play on the next weekend for our domestic league, it leaves us a really small gap of being able to work out during that week because Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are cut from the whole week. Sunday we play, so that will probably mean we have Monday off. Some players can come in on Monday to work on player development stuff, but still, not all of the players want to come in on Monday. So we need to reschedule that. And then on Friday, we need our last stretch to prepare us for the weekend where we play on Saturday or maybe Sunday. Um, so when we are actually playing a busy schedule like that, um, we go for maybe 2 hours a week. If we would play at home in the FIBA Europe Cup, it will be a way different story. And we go for like 3, maybe 4 hours of player development work over the week. Because you have not as much time, it's really important to go quality over quantity. We have, for instance, we have the shooting gun where we can take 1,000 shots. Um, but if we are really working on one player who's shooting the ball like this, and we need to work on having the hand spread out, it is pretty useless for us to let him shoot on the gun where there's no one who will tell him, okay, spread your hands. This is good. This is not. So we need to put quality over quantity. So maybe we will get 100 shots up while I'm working out a player one on one, even though if you would be shooting on the gun, you would have at least 500 shots. But in this case, quality over quantity is the most important thing. In the off season, which in a bad situation like this we are in right now, um, there's no gym access yet, so hopefully that will come soon. Um, but during the off season, we can go for 6 to 10 hours a week. Most of our players, they are going to do 2 workouts a day, maybe 3, where they focus on one strength and conditioning session and one on-court session, which will be a player development session. During the weeks, it changes a little bit, but sometimes they play pickup. Sometimes most of our guys come in who are still in the Netherlands. They come in and they trying to play some scrimmage games. But normally we would work out around 6 days a week, and we go for at least 1 hour to maybe an hour and 15 minutes a day, for at least my one-on-one session with player development. Um, you always have the eager players that after the workout is done, they will go home, eat, and then eventually somewhere over the day they're going to come back to the gym and they still want to get some shots up. During the off season, there's not really a big problem with that because they have the time and they have the facilities to actually work out multiple times a day. So during the season, it's really quality based, and in the off season it's still quality, but it's a little bit more quantity as well. um, how we work for our player development plan, and we need to create a separate plan for each player because everybody is different. There's no way um, we can use every single player and have them work through the same blueprint for everyone. That's just not possible. So what we do is we do a background check. For instance, the player we're talking about today, Devin, um, he had 2 ACL injuries over the last 3 seasons, I believe. So most of the last 3 years, he's just been rehabbing. Um, what happens for us is we get him around January. He hasn't played a lot over the past 3 years, so he's not out of shape because he's still fit and he can still play, but he's out of game shape. So that's something we need to keep in account and think about, like, oh, we need to pay attention to this because I mean he's out of game shape. We need to get him into game shape as soon as possible. um, we want to look at what are the players doing well. So what is their strength, what are they doing well with us, what have they been doing well with former teams, and where's room to improve. Where do we want him or we need him to improve to make a significant um, to make a significant leap into their skill for the next season. But I believe one of the things is where does the player want to improve? Because I can tell a player 1,000 things. I can tell him like, okay, you need to work on this, you need to work on that. But the important thing is if a player wants to work on something, it is just way more, it's just going to happen way faster because the players are really locked into doing that, using that, just wanted to do it every single day. So I'm a big believer in where does the player want to improve, and maybe it's something for me to tell the player like I feel you should improve here and here and here, to make the player think about, oh, maybe that is where I want to improve in as well. A big key into player development is track progress. Um, so if player A starts on a 15% 3 point shot and we need to work that up, we need to keep track of all of the workouts and all of the percentages he's been getting. And just once a week, I'll give him feedback and say, okay, we started the week at 15%. Right now we're at 20. So we're having progress. And I think that's a really important thing. Also, if we're rebuilding a shot or something like that, we start close range. And it's really important to show that we're tracking the progress because it's not about what's happening right now. You don't need to be an all-time NBA player right now, but maybe if you want to be, we can try to make you an all-time NBA player in the future. And what is a big thing in that is to study similar players. Study players that are playing in a little higher league for us. So for us, most of the time we look at the Euro League because that's most applicable to what we do. We want to study similar players because we want to look at what are they doing, how are they moving, and how can we adjust that to our player. But I will go into that a little bit deeper once we get further into the presentation. Um, so once we're going into the off-season player development program, what is the content of it? So our off-season development program will always consist of touch-ups and points of significant improvement. So we will look at the player and we see, okay, touch ups, what are some small things that we want to change or we want to touch on? And we can do into multiple things. So maybe it's a footwork, for example, is a really, it's a thing that you can focus on while you're shooting, while you're dribbling, while you're doing a lot of things. And we feel that's a little touch up. And we have points of significant improvement, which are the things that after the summer, we really want to have you make a big step in this so you can really show this into a game for us. Most of the time, we grab two in each category. So we're not going to have an insane amount of things that we want to focus on because eventually time is limited and we need to get the reps in. If we only get 10 reps in each thing over the whole summer, we can do 1,000 things, but it's not going to translate to the next season. The one of the most important things to determine a player's strength or weaknesses is we use InStat to analyze the player. So I'll just switch up to InStat right now. And what we have here is we have the player page of Devin van Oostrom, who is our point guard. And we can basically look into everything that he has been doing. We can look at, for instance, the games he's been playing. We can look at all of the minutes he played. We have a shot chart. What I really love, and the thing is, what I'm always very interested to see is always the totals as well. We can look at some video summaries. But what I wanted to focus on today was more the part about how are we going to translate the offensive game and especially the shots, the shot types, basically. So what we do here, what we have right now is right here, we have the shot chart and we can look at all of the stats. You can see he's been shooting 11% from the corner and he has been shooting 0 of 24 from the right wing, which is a pretty bad stat to be honest. And this is what I'm saying. Devin has not been in real game shape, and towards the end of the season, he was getting there a lot better. But at the beginning of the first year, of the beginning of 2020, it wasn't really that good. So what we do is we will select the shot type, and for instance, we are going to look at the layups first. Well, what we see is he's shooting 43% from layup range, and he makes 20 out of 47, which only gives us a number. I mean, the number is will value something, but the number will not tell you why the percentage is at 43%. So I will go into that a little bit further. For instance, when we look at the floaters, you see he's only 1 of 2. So he's been shooting 50% floaters, but he only used it twice. I think as a point guard, you really need to have a good floater. So I think that's a really important thing. So that is something that we want to pay attention to and we really want to look at while we are having a player like this. And when we look at the jumpers, for instance, all of his shots, like I told you before, he has a 0% from the right wing and he has a 27% of the left wing. which are his volume shots, because he's 33% from this like in betweener long two, but he only shoots 1 for 3, so he only took 3 shots in the whole season. He took 51 shots from the left wing, so that is something that gives you a way more realistic view on things, because 1 of 3, I mean, I can shoot 3 shots and luckily the all 3 go in, and I have a 100% rate. Um, so the thing for us is we want to look at why something is happening. He has a 1 for 2 floater rate, which is 50%. So why isn't he shooting those floaters? He has the 0% shooting percentage from the right wing. Why is that? What's the reason behind it? Is it footwork? Is it mechanics? Is it rhythm? Is it just shot selection? Um, so the nice thing about us using InStat is we can press this, or for instance, if we go back to the layups again, we can press this area, and I already opened them in my tabs, but we will get a playlist of all of his finishes. So we can look at these, and we can see, okay, what's been going wrong? When is he missing shots? I think a really nice function to use is the rewind, or basically the speed adjuster. So what we can do is we can look at the plays in slow mo, so we can really see. Okay, let's just pause it, play it back, and we can see, okay, what's going on. So this is him finishing with his left. He drives, left foot, right hand, 1-step layup, just misses a little bit of touch. Right here, he's on the break. 1-2 step, wants to go up with his left, and he misses a shot. So in this way, InStat really gives me the opportunity to look at everything in a slower speed, so I can really look at the details. We could even add drawings on it, but I will show you that a little bit later on. But I think also a nice thing what I can do is I have this playlist, and what I do most of the times, I only change the frame, so I just short the clips a little bit, and I will press this button, share to a player, and I can enter the player's email address, and he will just receive a link with the video where he can just watch it up to 5 times, and he can eventually go into watching it a couple times, and then for me it gives me also an opportunity to go into a conversation with the player, like, okay, so you've watched your clips, what do you think about it? Because I can tell him this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is good, but does the player see whatever they're doing wrong, or do they don't see it? Like, is it not possible for them to see whatever they're looking at? So for layups, as you've just seen the clips, it was basically a close range finishing. He had no control over the ball for some plays. He had to finish with his offhand, but was a little off. His footwork was off some of the time, so he didn't like really figured out the right size for his steps to go up. And his balance was a little bit off as well. So he was shaking the ball, bringing the ball from left to right, getting the body a little bit out of balance. So when we continue into the shooting, I'll just go here. If you continue into the shooting, it's really important to see where does he get his shots from. So right here as well, I'll just slow it down a little bit. What does he get his shots from? So this is basically a high ball screen into a pull-up shot from the dribble. This is a ball screen into the rescreen into a dribble pull-up. These are his misses now. This is the same thing. It's a dribble pull-up. So as you see now, the majority of his shots all come from the dribble. So maybe his catch and shoot rate would be way higher, But as we see right now, the shots that he's taking off of the dribble, um, they go out. So just to go back into the first screen, we can maybe compare it. So we go back into his player profile, and we say we want to look at jumpers, where we see his percentages, and then we want to say catch and shoot shots. Does that change a little bit of the shots? I mean, still 0%, but a 0 off of 9 instead of 0 off of 23. So the majority of his shots are him creating a shot for himself off the dribble. His shooting here off the catch and shoot is 31%. It's not really high percentage, but it's still decent. So this is something that we can look at. Okay, so is it his shooting off of the dribble? Um, so as you can see from these clips, it's more footwork. It's the ball pickup that's not really smooth. He tries to not has all of the dribble moves straight flowing into the jump shot. Is it the rhythm that's off a little bit on the shots? Um, I think in some cases he goes up, has a little pause in his shot, and then he extends the rest of the shot, um, which makes the legs useless basically because you pause. For 2 point shots, that will be okay because you have enough strength, but for threes, you really need to have a fluent motion, and it's a shot selection on some of these shots as well. So if you take a look at this, I mean, it's end of the shot clock situation. Him creating for himself out of an isolation play. This is a straight up catch and shoot. Um, I think this is a nice one to show because I feel like there's a little hesitation. He receives the ball and he's not determined to get the ball and go straight up. He's waiting a little bit, and after a second, he decides to, okay, I need to take this shot. I want to take this shot. So what I feel like you see with these shots is it's shot selection, its rhythm is a little bit off, the ball pickup is a little bit off. Um, so these are the things that we can go in depth in, while we are talking with him and having a conversation with him. From seeing these clips, we can determine what do we need to adjust. So footwork is something we saw on both finishing and shooting. I mean, Devin is coming off an ACL injury, which is not a small injury. It's a pretty big one, and he's been rehabbing for the last 2 years. He played in between a little bit, but footwork is something that's a little bit off. And finishing with his left hand is really something that was off as well. Where I feel finishing with his left hand is more of a touch up instead of a point of significant improvement, because we can just do ball handling with his left, and that will help his touch with his left as well. We do a lot of finishing stuff, we do a lot of floaters now. So the things that I feel like the point of significant improvement is shooting off the dribble and floater usage. So as you've seen before, he shoot one of two in floaters. I feel like he needs to shoot way more floaters because that's a really comfortable shot, and it's pretty close range. So you can try to buddy up a defender, try to finish with contact, or just one step before, just throw the ball over and have basically some sort of uncontested shot and just throw it over the defense. And shooting off the dribble, we need to work on the ball moving a little more fluently, the rhythm getting into the shot. So these are the things that we need to put in perspective as well, and we need to add to his player development program. The reason or the thing that I do, is I study the game that our player plays. So I study what we just showed. I also study similar players. So maybe players that play in the EuroLeague and play on a similar position. Um, or I study NBA players that have a similar frame. Um, and I tend to build up playlists in InStat where I just keep track of all different players in different leagues, and I just throw them all in one big playlist. Um, what we want to do off of that while we studied their game is we need to translate that game to what is applicable to the player that we're working with. So it's nice that, for instance, Devin Booker can make a floater, but how does that translate to Devin van Oostrum making a floater? So we need to figure out how to translate that and see if they have the similar body type and see if we can use the same way. Uh, for instance, Devin Booker is using the move, and eventually from there, we need to implement it in our player development program where we teach it at first and then we do the reps. So, as I said before, player development is a combination um, of teaching and repetitions. So, I have a couple of examples. As I said, I create playlists on InStat where I just add a bunch of stuff. So what I will show you now is my what I call level 1 finishing. So that's close range rim finishes. I have various players doing those moves in different types of clips, and I highlighted those with drawings on them as well. I will send you off. Let's go into those first. Um, so here is the level 1 rim finishing. So let's just start with this. And what we see here is we see the player making contact with his shoulder first. So the defense needs to go over the baseline. Um, so you see here the player attacks. Boom, this is a bump right into the chest, which gives the player room to step over to the other side, have room, and finish in the middle of the lane. So if we continue this clip, you see while there's room, he just takes off with his back foot into the middle, and then he can come back because the player already went over the baseline. So let's just go for another clip. This is Bradley Beal of the Washington Wizards. And what he does is he's using the ball screen and the defender's in a drop. He uses the low sweep. So he really takes the ball low away from the defense hands to go towards the middle. So that's something where if you feel the ball of your player gets stripped a lot because he takes it from hip to hip, you can show them like, okay, these are players that are playing in a different league. They rip it high or they rip it low. Doesn't really matter which one you use, but that's not where the defense hands are because the hands are normally out in front. So if you go hip from hip, the chances of you being stealed are significant. I'll just show some more examples of the stuff that I have in here. This is a Devin Booker clip from the Phoenix Suns, and what he does is he uses a 1-2 step on the finish, and on the second step, he uses that to get in front of his defender. So his one step is to get on the side of the defender, and his second step is to really get in front of the defender. So I'll just slow this down a little bit, rewind it again. So this is also going slower a little bit. But so Devin Booker makes a front cut. He gets the ball. He takes one balance step and the other step to really go in front of the defense, and that gives him the opportunity to go up. Let's see. Here we have another Devin Booker clip where he uses the unorthodox one-step layup, which is a highly used thing these days, but to catch the defender sleeping because the defender is expecting him to go 1-2, finish with his left, and he just takes a one step and he quickly goes up with his right, which catches, I think this is Malik Beasley sleeping on this play. So he goes up right away. So I'll just go to this Sun. I'll just see. Go to display this James Harden play. So what do you see here is, for instance, we see him with the left feet, I believe. He creates space from Kelly Oubre, his defender, and then from there he squeezes through the defense basically. So he slices through. So if this is something that I want to show, I can just play this really slow, and this is the important step to make. So this is cutting off Kelly Oubre. So if this is something that I want to show to my player, I can just say add picture. That doesn't really do what it's supposed to do right now. Okay, just put this on 1. We wanted to add a picture. So we are here on the first step where he cuts off Kelly Oubre. We can just say, okay, we want to have a circle, we want to have it red, and then we can just select it, and then we save it. And that's basically easy as it gets. So he will just blow by, boom, and there you have the little circle that we just draw the court. So these are the level 1 finishes that we tend to use. That's the playlist that I tend to use. And also this playlist is shareable with our players. So if we would go into level 2 finishing, which are the floaters, and that is something that I feel like Devin really needs to take a next step in, as I said before, is floater usage. We have a clip of CJ McCollum where he really goes up, and when he sees LaMarcus Aldridge stepping up as a defender, he decides not to use the wrist snap, but to have a push floater to really push the ball into the air. So we're looking at all different perspectives on what are we doing and how are we doing this. And here is CJ McCollum using the push as a really small thing that can make a difference if we want to throw the ball over a big defender. In this case, he quickly grabs the offensive rebound, so the Sacramento Kings are in a little bit of scramble mode. And what he does is, it's a really smart move. He goes right, and it's a one-step, one-hand floater. So he goes up, boom. His shoulders are turned towards the basket. It's a one-step, so the defense is always going to think you're going to use 2 steps, even though the one-step thing is something used a lot these days. So they feel like, oh, he's going to use that 1-2, and then from here, shoulders are squared to the basket, and he can just go up easily because there's plenty of room and time for him to come up. And as I said before, these are not things we directly copy from the players, but we really try and see, okay, this is something that he does. How can we implement this to what our players are doing? And we're not only doing this for our guards, we're doing this for our bigs, we're doing this for our forwards. We're constantly looking for similar players, and we're trying to add stuff to their perspective and to their game. What you see here is on the first step, CJ McCollum bumps his defense. So it's a bump. He makes contact, shoulder to like middle of the body, and then he goes towards his left to create separation from the defense and really be like at that position where he can balance on one leg and still go up easily. The thing with floaters is when you create separation, normally when the player would be right here, be on his right shoulder, he should go up left to give Will Barton the least amount of time to block his shot. Now, because CJ made contact with Will Barton and he decided to step out a little bit, he stands still on his left leg, and he can still go up with his right because there's enough separation, and he can easily go up with his right hand. So that's time and space enough for him. Here you have this is a similar clip to the Bradley Beal clip. This is James Harden using the sweep. So this is not a low sweep or a high sweep, but this is a sweep up. So he basically sweeps through the defender's hands. Let's see. Nope. Where are we at? This is the one. He basically sweeps up through the defender's hands. So if they're going to touch his arms, the refs are going to call a foul, which it gives him a little bit time and place to get his hands up and throw the shot at the rim. And I think a thing is for you guys is really interesting to see how I do this and how we look at some kind of things. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take you and bring you guys in on the way that we're gonna hunt for the thing that we want to look at. So what we said here is the point of significant improvement is Devin's shooting off the dribble. And most of his shots off the dribble were coming in from ball screen situations. So I looked up some players that play the point guard as well and have a similar body frame. And you come to the names of Kostas Sloukas, who plays for Fenerbahce in Turkey in the EuroLeague, and you have Mike James, who plays for CSKA Moscow in the EuroLeague as well. So I think we can just look them up. So we can say Mike James, for instance, who plays at CSKA Moscow. And we can do this with basically any player that plays in the world. We can put all of them together. So we have a big list of the players that we feel like they're similar to. We want to get some stuffs from their game and the things that we want to implement in our players. Feel Zoom is taking up a lot of my internet capacities. So I'll just do this again. We'll take
Yeah,
in.
just wait a little bit until it downloads, and
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's not gonna take that long. So here we go. We have all of Mike James shots. Just give it some time to load right now. And as I said before with Devin, this includes all of his games from last season. So I can just go here and select what matches I want to see. So it's automatically set on all the matches of the last season. So I would be interested in his 3-point field goal percentage or his 3-point shots, basically, out of a pick and roll situation where he's the ball handler, and I really want to look at his made shots. So you have 37 clips. It's around 7 minutes and 24 seconds. I want to cut that time a little bit because we're not having an insane amount of time. So we want to look at them now. Let's see if I can turn my music off, the sound of the clips off. And what it does, it creates, it automatically creates a playlist. So it just created the Mike James playlist, what I can save in my profile, where I can look at what is he doing. So we can just look at these clips and we can see, okay, what is he doing right now? Some clips might be more applicable to what our player will be doing. Some clips will not be as applicable to what he's doing. So I can just, so for instance, the first shot was really like a turnaround fadeaway. I don't really think we want to have Devin shooting that shot. So we can just put that off. We can look here, and for instance, on this shot, when he picks up the ball, his hands are above the ball. So what I can do is I can add the picture again, say, okay, this is what I want you to look at, the pickup of the ball. And I can just save this. And as soon as I send my playlist to whatever players I all want to have looking at this clip, they will see this drawing again. So we can see it. We can look at this, and we can look at these clips, and we can really see when he dribbles, he dribbles it really hard. He has a hard last pound, picks the ball up at his hip, put his wrist behind the ball, and really smoothly goes up. There's no two motion shot, so it's really fluent. Um, so these are the things that we want to have our players looking at. And for instance, Devin, we had a similar shot from him shooting, getting the ball, being in an isolation situation, feeling like, okay, so do I need to take this shot or should I not take this shot? And when you look at this shot, boom, and he's ready to go. He knows he wants to take this shot, and he knows he will make it eventually. Um, so from here, um, I could also just select this bar and I could say examples. And from here, you will see I have a lot of playlists where I can just drag in clips, or I can um, I can also share these playlists with my players, um, and that's basically the way that I use Instat right now, and the way that we implement using Instat in our player development program. So yeah, this was my presentation. Um, Once again, if you would like to contact me after this webinar, feel free to send me an email, and now we will see if Nikita received some questions.
Yeah, so first of all, team, it was outstanding. It was something from other universe. I mean, this is so detailed and well prepared, well structured. I think this kind of conversations really enrich us like our basketball experience, our basketball knowledge, especially in the field of player development. And I really appreciate you like for sharing your experience. On how you use Instat for player development. I think this is something extraordinary. Uh, Good, great, excellent. I don't know what to say. I was looking for I was looking the presentation with almost like open mouth, and it really was excellent. So
Thank you.
yeah, yeah.